Hi, my name is Mosh and I'm going to be your instructor in this Python course. In this course, you're going to learn everything you need to get started programming in Python. Python is one of the most popular programming languages, and every day people use it to do cool things like automation. They use it. Now here, right-click on Hello World folder and go to New Python file. Call this. Now let's collect simple and close parentheses, and inside this parentheses add quotations. You can either use single quotes or double quotes. Now in between the quotes, write your name. I am Mosh Hamedani, so let's write that here. So this is your first Python program. With this piece of code, you can print your name on the screen. Now to run this, go on the top, under the Run menu, click Run. Also note that there is a shortcut associated with this command. When I program, I always use shortcuts because that increases my productivity. So here on a Mac computer, the shortcut is Control, Option, and R. On Windows, it's different. So let's go ahead with that. Now it's asking where you want to run this. Click on App. Now down below, you should see this little terminal window. This is like a little window into our program. So here we can see the results or output of our program. In the future, as you learn more Python, you'll be able to build applications that have a graphical user interface or GUI. That is a little bit complicated. So for now, we're going to use this little terminal window to see the results of our program. So as you can see, my name is printed here. Now, as you write code, this window might get in the way. So you can always resize it or minimize it by clicking this icon here. So this was our first Python program. Now, if you didn't see the result I showed you in this video, use the comment box below and tell me what error you encountered. I'll do my best to help you move forward. In this Python tutorial, we're going to take this program to the next level. We're going to make it more interesting. So I'm going to show you how to draw a dog here. Now, as part of this tutorial, you will learn how Python code gets executed, and you will also learn about a few programming terms. So press enter, and on line 2, write another print statement. So print, open and close parentheses, add a quotation. Now here we want to draw a dog. So I don't know, that is the head of our dog, followed by 4 hyphens. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the body, all right? Now one more time, another print statement with quotations. Now we need to draw the legs. So add a space, followed by 4 vertical bars. So like this. So here's a little imaginary dog. Now let's run this program and see what we get. So on the top right corner, you should see this play button. Click that. There you go. So we have our name, and right below that, we have our imaginary dog. Now what you need to understand here is that our Python code gets executed line by line from the top. So earlier I told you about Python interpreter. That is the program that knows how to translate or interpret our Python code into instructions that a computer can understand. So when we run this program by clicking this icon here, Python interpreter starts executing or running our program line by line from the top. So first it executes line 1, then moves on to line 2, and so on. So this is how Python programs get executed. Now let me show you something cool. Let's add another print statement with quotations. Now in between the quotations, add a star or an asterisk like this. Now after the quotation and before the parenthesis, add a space. Once again, add an asterisk, space, 10. What is going on here? Well, anywhere we have quotations, like here or here, we're defining a string. A string is a programming term, which means a series of characters. So here we have a string. We also have a string on line 3, as well as line 2 and line 1. Now here, we are multiplying this string by number 10. So this is the multiplication operator, just like the multiplication operator we have in math. So with this piece of code, we can draw 10 asterisks on the terminal. Let me show you. So let's run this program one more time. There you go. So we have 10 asterisks. Now what we have here, this piece of code here, is called an expression. An expression is a piece of code that produces a value. So when Python interpreter tries to execute line 4, first it will evaluate the code that we put in between parentheses. So it will evaluate our expression. Our expression will produce 10 asterisks, and then those asterisks will be printed on the terminal. Now, as an exercise, you can use these print statements to draw another shape. You can draw a heart, a ball, whatever you like. I will see you in the next tutorial. One of the questions I get a lot tutorial, you're going to learn about variables, which are one of the most fundamental concepts in programming. They're not specific to Python. They exist in pretty much every programming language out there. We use variables to temporarily store data in a computer's memory. Here's an example. Let's type price equals 10. When Python interpreter executes this code, it will allocate some memory, then it will store the number 10 in that memory, and finally it will attach this price label to that memory location. As a metaphor, imagine we have a box. In that box, we have number 10, and price is the label that we put on the box. Now we can use this label anywhere in our program to access the value that we have in that box. This is a very simplified explanation. So now let's print price on the terminal. Print. Now this time we're not going to add quotations, because if we put quotations here, we will see the text price on the terminal, not the value of the price variable. So delete quotations and type price. Now let's run this program one more time. There you go. So we see 10 on the terminal. So this is how we define variables. We start with an identifier, which is the name of our variable, then an equal sign, and finally a value. Now more accurately, when this number 10 is about to be stored in the memory, first it will get converted to its binary representation. So this number 10 that we have is in the decimal system, which has all the digits from 0 to 9. Computers don't understand all these digits. They only understand zeros and ones. So when we store the number 10 in a computer's memory, first it will get converted to its binary representation, which will be a bunch of zeros and ones, like 001, 001, whatever, I don't know. Then it will get stored in the computer's memory. So let's take this program to the next level. On the second line, we can update the value of this price variable. So we can reset it to a new value like 20. Now, when we run our program, we should see 20 because as I told you before, Python interpreter executes our code line by line from the top. So first we set price to 10, then we reset it to 20, and finally we print it on the terminal. Let's run the program. There you go. So we see 20 here. Okay. Now these numbers that we have here are whole numbers without a decimal point. In programming, we refer to these numbers as integers. So an integer is a number without a decimal point. We can also use numbers with a decimal point. For example, here on line 2, we can define another variable called rating, and we set it to 4.9. Now in programming, we refer to this kind of number as a floating point number, or float for short. So we have integers and floats. We can also define a variable and set it to a string. For example, name equals mosh. We also have another kind of value, which is called Boolean, which can be true or false. They are like yes and no in English. Here's an example. I'm going to define a variable is underline published. So we use an underscore to separate multiple words in our variable's name. We set this to true or false. These are the Boolean values. Now, note that Python is a case-sensitive language, which means it's sensitive to lowercase and uppercase characters. So when defining variables, we should always use lowercase letters. But here, false and true are special keywords in the language. So if we spell it with a lowercase f, Python doesn't understand it. You can see we have a red underline here, which indicates an error. So make sure to spell this with a capital F, or if you want to set this to true, make sure T is capital. So in this program, we are storing simple values in our computer's memory. Simple values can be numbers, which can be integers or floats, or they can be strings or booleans. But in Python, we can also store complex values like lists and objects, and that's what I'm going to show you in the future. So before going any further, I want you to do a little exercise. Imagine we're going to write a program for a hospital. So we check in a patient named John Smith. He's 20 years old and is a new patient. I want you to define 3 variables here for his name, his age, and another variable to tell if this is a new or an existing patient. So pause the video and spend 1 minute on this exercise. When you're done, come back, continue, see my solution. All right, so here we need three variables. The first one is the patient's name. We set that to John Smith. We can also call this full name. These are both valid names for our variables. The second variable is for the age of our patient. So age is 20. And finally, we need a variable to tell if this is a new or an existing patient. That's where we can use a Boolean value. So we define a variable is new and we set it to true. So you have learned how to print messages on the terminal window. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to receive input from the user. So we're going to write a small program that asks the user's name, and then it will print a greeting message customized for that user. So instead of print, we're going to use input. Now, both this input and print are functions that are built into Python. As a metaphor, think of the remote control of your TV. On this remote control, we have a bunch of buttons. These are the functions built into your TV. You can turn it on, turn it off, change the volume, and so on. In Python, we also have a bunch of functions for common tasks, such as printing messages, receiving input, and so on. So we're going to use the input function. Now, whenever we have these parentheses, we say we're calling or executing that function. It's like pressing a button on a remote control. So we're going to call the input function, and in between parentheses, we want to add a string to print something on the terminal. What is your name? With a question mark followed by a space. You'll see why in a second. So this input function will print this message on the terminal, and then it will wait for the user to enter a value. Whatever the user enters, this input function will return. So now we can get that value and store it in the memory using a variable. So we get the result and put it in a variable called name. Okay? Now on the second line, we want to print a message like hi John or hi Mosh, whatever. So print quotations, hi with a space. Now after the quotation, we want to dynamically print what we have in the name variable. So we add a plus sign and then name. So here we have hi, which is a string. We're concatenating or combining this string with another string. That is what we have in the name variable. So here's another example of an expression. Remember what is an expression? It's a piece of code that produces a value. So this expression concatenates or combines two strings. Let's run this program and see what happens. So run. Okay, here's the question. What is your name? Mosh. Now note that earlier we added a space after the question mark. We did this so here in the terminal window, the cursor is separated from the question mark. Otherwise, it would be so close. So let's type whatever here, press enter. Now we get this message, hi Mosh. Now here's a little exercise for you. I want you to extend this program and ask two questions. First, ask the person's name and then their favorite color, and then print a message like Mosh likes blue. So pause the video, do this exercise, and then come back, continue watching. All right, so here's the first question. Right after that, we're going to call the input function one more time. This time we're going to ask a different question. What is your favorite color? Now we get the new value and store it in a variable called color, or we could call it favorite underline color. Either works. And finally, we're going to change what we pass to the print function. So first we print the name, then we concatenate this with a string. Here we're going to type likes. We also put one space before and after likes. And once again, we concatenate this with the favorite color. So favorite color. Now let's run this program. So what is your name? Mosh, enter. Favorite color, blue, enter. We get this message, Mosh likes blue.